I have here a screenshot from a book I have been reading called He Leadeth Me by, I think, Walter Chiswick is how you say his name. And it's a quote. It's from St. Ignatius. It's a Jesuit idea about how to live your life. Man is created to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord, and by this means to save his soul. The other things on the face of the earth are created for man to help him in attaining the end for which he is created. Hence, man is to make use of them insofar as they help him in attainment of his end, and he must rid himself of them insofar as they prove a hindrance to him. Therefore, we must make ourselves indifferent to all created things. Ignatius calls that the principle and foundation of his spiritual exercises, but it is also the most fundamental truth of man's existence and God's providence. I'm going to read the quote from Ignatius in the book one more time. Again, this is from the book He Leadeth Me by Walter Chiswick, but this is just a quote from St. Ignatius, a foundation of the spiritual exercises. Man is created to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord, and by this means to save his soul. The other things on the face of the earth are created for man to help him in attaining the end for which he is created. Hence, man is to make use of them insofar as they help him in the attainment of his end, and he must rid himself of them insofar as they prove a hindrance to him. Therefore, we must make ourselves indifferent to all created things. So I had heard an idea like this from Ignatius before, like Ignatian indifference, where it was saying, like, not caring about sickness or good health, yada yada. And it took a while for me to not caring about like riches, poverty, sickness, or good health, indifferent to that. And it took a while for me to wrap my head around this. But basically, the only end is God. The only end is heaven. And your identity is a Christian. That's it. Your identity is a soldier for Christ, however you want to phrase it. And what I find really interesting about this is I learned in psychology, or in self-improvement too, a way people recommend sticking with habit is adopting the identity associated with that habit. Meaning there's different levels of reward or motivation. There's a whole psychological framework about this where doing something to avoid a punishment, for reward because other people think it's good, or because it converges with your identity. Very simple example. You say you want to go to the gym more, but you keep playing video games, and really in the back of your mind, you view yourself as a gamer. And going to the gym is an upstream battle because your identity is a gamer, and every time you do something against that identity, it's like going against the stream, going against the current, and the way to fix that is to start viewing yourself as an athlete, as a weightlifter, as a healthy person, and adopting that as your core identity, and that becomes the stream, that becomes the current, and going to the gym and activities like eating healthy that are congruent with that become easy. And I definitely did this in my life where things that I wanted to, or habits that I wanted to adopt, I would adopt the identity associated with the habit. Athlete, intellectual, good lover, I don't know, stuff like that, whatever. I would adopt the identity. And what's so interesting is that that's somewhat incorrect. Viewing yourself and taking up the identity of an athlete, when in reality, your identity, the only identity as a Christian you should have is as a Christian, as a soldier for Christ, as someone doing God's will. And this idea of indifference is everything, as the quote was saying, on this earth. We are to use it to grow in our ability to serve, to praise, and to do God's will. Everything on this earth. Sorry, the video got cut off. Everything on this earth we are meant to be indifferent to and capitalize upon it and use it only if it helps us in our final end. Everything is a means. This pen, your relationships, your family, your girlfriend, the gym, everything. Indifference to all created things indifference to all created things and using them positively only to grow in our relationship with God and dropping things that are a hindrance to that. And that's a wildly different approach to motivation, to identity, than self-improvement or psychology may have it. Instead of adopting the identity of a weightlifter, you're a soldier for Christ. And the gym is a thing you do, but it's not the end goal. The end goal is perfect union with God. The end goal is heaven. Everything else is a means. Yeah, it's a kind of a simple idea, but it really is life-changing. It's wild to think of everything as a means and to have only one end that you put everything into. Dropping things that take you away from that end, dropping your vices, and increasing things, virtue, godly, loving relationships that help you grow closer to that end, to help you to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord. That's it. It's so simple. Difficult, very difficult, but simple. But yeah, that's an attitude of indifference, adopting heaven as the only end and seeing everything as a tool for that end, seeing everything on this world as a means, realizing building muscle isn't the end, realizing a loving girlfriend isn't the end, realizing getting a good grade isn't the end, heaven is the end, everything is a means.